Hey, this is a foreigner living in the Philippines. Well, it's another late night meandering, and let me see, what can I meander about now? Well, I often wonder about what it is about human chemistry. Remember how they say you might be watching two actors, an actor and an actress, and they're doing some romantic part, and they say, oh, they had great chemistry. And then you might meet someone who, if it's a soon-to-be romantic partner, you say, I don't know what it was about her, him. We just had great chemistry. Well, I wonder what that chemistry is. And once again, this is just my opinion. So there's something that surrounds a person. Now, psychics claim, and I believe it actually, that they can see things around a person. Now, in quantum physics, they talk about quantum fields, and these are fields of energy that surround a person. And sometimes these are so real that they can be squashed. That's why you had that very California type expression, he crowded my space, get out of my space. Well, actually it's not so California, because there is an ideal space around you that you want to have respected. So you don't want somebody in your face. Now, one of the things that we're led to believe is real when we look at a movie is, in order to get the intensity of the moment across, the director will have two male actors talking so close to each other's faces, if it's a headshot, that they look as if they're about to kiss, heaven forbid. So what is the ideal? Well, it's not one size fits all. Some people, it even varies, obviously, now that we're talking about chemistry, it even varies between one person and another. There are some people that you just can't have in your space, and there are some people that you feel very comfortable having very close to you. Then there's that other situation where somebody that you used to enjoy almost occupying the same space, I mean a lover, wife, very close loved one, child, somebody that's very, very close to you. For instance, when you have an infant, boy, you can have them absolutely close up to your chest, right next to your heart, and everything is fine. And then gradually as they grow up, the space between you becomes different. It's not that you can't have the child next to your heart, because you can, but those moments are more and more further and further apart. So it varies according to the moment, not just the space itself. So something is happening in that field, and I'm only posing the question here, what is it? You'll have your own ideas on this, but ask yourself, what is it that is being impinged upon? And I don't know how true this was, but I remember a quote about the famous guy who was an American. So I don't take everything that they say, because I think that they are looking at things through a very limited view, a limited scope, a little bit like looking into a room through a keyhole. And you can look in there, and you can look a little bit to this side and a little bit to that side, but after the while you're looking through a tube like this, so it naturally cuts itself off. So you can get an impression of what's in the room, but you can't see everything. And I think sometimes that these people get an impression of something, but they can't see everything. Now, when I was in the army, I went to see one particular person, and he was one of those he dealt with something that you owned. So I gave him my watch, and he held my watch, and he said, I wish I had coming to me what you have coming to you in your life, that you will lead a very full life. Now at that time I was in the army, struggling to get through the next few years with mind-crushing, mind-numbing boredom. So thinking that I had a wonderful life ahead was not something that I readily jumped at and agreed to and said, oh yeah, sure, I can see that, because I couldn't. But he viewed all of the major parts of my life that were coming up. He saw the Statue of Liberty, and he saw something which did not become applicable for many, many years later, and that was that I would become a writer. Back then, I was a trombone player. That's all I thought of, not even a singer. I thought about playing the trombone. I thought about being, in my naivety, being a great, great, world-renowned player. And it was only later that things changed my way of looking at things, so that became something that was not interesting to me. But back then, it was a passion for me. So the idea that I was going to, why would I become a writer? I mean, what do I know? And maybe even now I should be saying, what do I know? Right, but it was true back then. And even though I didn't agree to it, even though I didn't think it was right, I actually did eventually find that that became true. And not until many, many years later. So that whole thing of what can be felt around you is very interesting to me, and that's where we've got, isn't it? We've gotten to the aura thing, and well, it is a meandering, which by definition means maybe I don't know where I'm going when I start out. But I will tell you one experience that my brother related to me. My brother had, when his girl, he had a daughter, Lynn, and Lynn was always a very perceptive kid. She would see things that others didn't. Now, when our mother died, Nev went on to have another child. And when the child, one night, he could hear something moving around, and he got up and he went into the child's room. And Lynn was standing by the cot, and Neville realized that there was something a little unusual about Lynn, as if she was still asleep. So he was very gentle with her, and he said, "Lynn, what are you doing?" And she said, "I'm showing Nana the new baby." So evidently my mother had appeared to Lynn as being the only person who would see her, and Lynn had taken her in and obligingly said, "Yes, Nana, come and look at the new baby." And they went together into the baby's room, and they looked at the baby. Well, for some reason I can live with that, and I can go along with how some people sometimes will say, "I could feel him near, I could feel her close," when the person has died and gone on. And I'm a great believer in, sometimes when you think about somebody, they'll call you. And I've had that so many times. And I've had even my attorney friend that I just told a story about said, well, obviously, just think about them and they'll call you. He was totally convinced. And so am I. So one last little anecdote, which kind of expresses how what you're thinking in this moment can actually be impinging somewhere else in space and time. I was talking to some people and we were talking about this very subject. And I just said something like that, that what we are doing and something that we say or do can impinge on something else. For instance, and I reached out like this and I put my hand on the phone. Well, actually, I didn't actually get to put my hand on the phone. My hand was just an inch away from the phone. I said, for instance, if you put your hand on the phone like this, and the phone rang, and everybody jumped. It wasn't for me, because I was in somebody else's house. But it was spooky the way that I said you could put your hand on the phone, and the phone rang. Well, the next day, one of the people that I'd been talking to was there again in the same house, and we're sitting around the same table in the kitchen, and we're talking about things. Well, Dad always talks about things that are a bit spooky, you know. And my daughter said, tell him what happened yesterday. I said, well, it's nothing so unusual, you know. We were talking about how things that you're doing and saying right now impinge in other places in space and time. And I said, and yesterday, to illustrate that point, I reached out and I said, for instance, if you put your hand on the phone like this, and in that second, the phone rang. Does that prove anything? I don't know, but I'm just meandering here. I didn't say I was going to prove anything. So that's what we can get away with saying tonight. And I'm just under orders here. I hope that you will understand my situation. Beth hasn't been feeling that good today, so she said, well, make some videos. And I said, well, let's make one together where we just chat together. No, I don't feel like it. I'm going to go to bed, but you can make 8 videos. I said, can we get this right? You're not prepared to make 1 video with me, and you're going to tell me that I've got to make 8? And fearlessly, she said, yes. So, this is a foreigner in the Philippines, and I'm only on number 2. Oh, that's the other kind of number 2, okay? Number 2 video. Get your mind up out of the gutter, will you? Bye for now.